Look at your ankles right now. Go ahead. Pull up the fabric of your trousers. Press one finger into the skin just above the bone. Hold it for 3 seconds and let go. If a small dent stays there, a little crater that slowly fills back in, then your body has already started sending you a message that most people over 60 ignore until the night it becomes impossible to ignore. My name is Dr. James Robert Calloway. My patients have called me Dr. J for almost 30 years now. And in those 3 decades of practice, I have learned one uncomfortable truth. Swollen legs are almost never about the legs. They are a signal. A quiet, patient physiological signal from an organ much higher up in your chest, an organ that does not know how to scream, so it whispers, and it whispers through your feet. Here is what unsettles me, and it should unsettle you too. In my practice, 9 out of 10 people who came to me at 72, 75, 78 years old with what they called just a little puffiness had no idea that the swelling was the most honest report their heart, their kidneys, or their veins had filed in years. They treated it like a cosmetic nuisance. They propped their feet on a pillow, they blamed the heat, they blamed the long car ride, and they went to sleep. And some of them woke up at 4 in the morning fighting for air, sitting bolt upright on the edge of the bed, because the same fluid that had been pooling politely in their ankles all day had finally, when they lay flat, gone looking for their lungs. Because the same fluid that had been pooling politely in their ankles all day had finally, when they lay flat, gone looking for their lungs. So let me ask you 3 questions, and I promise you, I give you my word as a physician, that by the end of this, every single one of them will be answered plainly, with nothing hidden. First, why does swelling that shows up in both legs at once mean something completely different, and often far more serious, than swelling in just one leg? And why do so many doctors barely explain this difference in the 8 minutes they have with you? Second, why can a blood pressure pill that millions of people over 60 take every single morning, a good pill, a pill that genuinely protects your brain, cause your ankles to balloon by the afternoon? And why does raising your legs do almost nothing to fix that particular kind of swelling? And third, what is the one thing your legs do in the final hour before a serious cardiac event? A change so specific, so physical that you can feel it with your own hand, that I wish every person over 70 knew how to check. If protecting your future matters to you, if you want the years ahead to be years of walking, of standing at the kitchen counter, of climbing your own stairs, then subscribe now and press that like button, because what comes next is the part almost nobody explains out loud. Stay with me. This matters more than you think. Now, let me take you back to something. Early in my career, when I was still doing hospital rounds in New York, there was a woman. I will call her Margaret because that was not her name, and I protect my patients even now. She was 74, sharp as a tack, ran the finances for her whole family, never missed a bill. And for about 3 months, she had noticed that by the end of each day her shoes felt tight. Not painful, just tight. She would take them off, put her feet up, and by morning the tightness was gone. So she did what almost every sensible person does. She decided it was nothing. Age, gravity, long days on her feet. Here is the nuance she did not understand, and that I want to burn into your memory. When you lie down at night and the swelling disappears by morning, that is not your body healing. That is your body redistributing. The fluid did not leave. It moved, and where it goes when you are lying flat is the question that separates a good night's sleep from a 4 a.m. emergency. Let me explain the physiology, because once you understand this, you will never look at your own ankles the same way again. Your body is, in the crudest possible terms, a system of pipes and pumps holding a very specific amount of fluid under a very specific pressure. Your heart is the central pump. When it is healthy, it pushes blood forward with enough force that everything keeps moving in a tidy circle, out through the arteries, through the tissues, back through the veins, up to the heart, out again, round and round, every second of your life, about 100,000 times a day. But here is the ambush. Gravity never sleeps. Every moment you are standing or sitting, gravity is pulling the fluid in your blood down toward the lowest point in your body. And for most of your waking hours, That lowest point is your feet and ankles. In a young person, this is no problem at all. The veins in the legs have muscular walls and tiny one-way valves, little doors that slam shut so blood cannot fall backward, and every time you take a step, the muscles of your calf squeeze those veins and shove the blood upward, back toward the heart. In a young person, this is no problem at all. The veins in the legs have muscular walls and tiny one-way valves, little doors that slam shut so blood cannot fall backward, and every time you take a step, the muscles of your calf squeeze those veins and shove the blood upward, back toward the heart. Your calf muscle is, and I mean this literally, a second heart. Physicians actually call it that, the peripheral heart. It is doing quiet, thankless work every time you walk across a room. Now let me show you what happens after 70. The valves in those leg veins begin to weaken. The little doors do not slam shut anymore. They sag, they leak, and blood that should have been pushed up toward the heart slides back down and pools. Back. The valves in those leg veins begin to weaken. The little doors do not slam shut anymore. They sag, they leak, and blood that should have been pushed up toward the heart slides back down and pools. The calf muscle itself gets thinner, weaker, especially if you have spent more time sitting than walking. Put all three together and you get fluid, plasma, seeping out of the tiny vessels and into the tissue. That is the dent under your finger. That is edema. And here is where I need you to listen to me very carefully, because this is the fork in the road that most people miss entirely. There is a world of difference between swelling caused by tired, leaky veins in your legs, which is uncomfortable but often manageable, and swelling caused by a heart that can no longer keep up with the volume of fluid it is being asked to move. There is a world of difference between swelling caused by tired, leaky veins in your legs, which is uncomfortable but often manageable, and swelling caused by a heart that can no longer keep up with the volume of fluid it is being asked to move. One is a local plumbing problem, the other is a report from the central pump that it is falling behind, and they can look almost identical from the outside. Almost. The tell, the first real tell, is symmetry. Listen to me on this. When your veins are simply worn out, the swelling often favors one leg over the other because one leg's valves usually give out before the others. But when the swelling appears in both legs evenly, both ankles puffing up like matching bread dough, that is the pattern that makes an old physician's ears prick up. Because bilateral swelling, swelling on both sides at once, points upstream. It points away from the legs and toward the heart and the kidneys. It suggests the problem is not the pipes in your legs, but the pressure and volume in the whole system. And Margaret's swelling, it was in both legs, even, symmetric. But nobody had pressed on both her ankles and asked the question that mattered. Which brings me to something I need to tell you before we go one step further, because it changes everything about how you should read your own body tonight. And it involves a mistake I see people make with their own hands, a mistake that hides the single most important clue their legs are trying to give them. They press on the swelling with the flat of their whole hand, the way you would test whether bread has risen. But that is not the test. The test is one fingertip, one single finger, pressed firmly into the skin over the shin bone, held for a slow count of 5, and then lifted. If a distinct pit stays behind, that is what we call pitting edema. And pitting edema is fluid, actual fluid, sitting in your tissue, that your body could not move where it belonged. Now, let me give you the 3 main causes of swollen legs after 60, the 3 doors that this symptom walks through, so that you can start to understand which one is knocking on yours. And I am going to be honest with you about something that does not always get said plainly in a doctor's office. These 3 causes are ranked, in my experience, not by how common they are, but by how much they can cost you if you get them wrong. The first cause, and the most common one, thankfully often the least dangerous, is venous insufficiency. This is the plumbing problem I described, the leaky valves, the tired calf muscle, the blood that pools instead of climbing back up. You will usually recognize it by a few honest signs. The swelling tends to be worse at the end of the day and better in the morning. The skin over the ankles may take on a brownish, leathery tint over months and years, because trapped blood cells break down and stain the tissue, and it often, though not always, favors one leg. This is uncomfortable, it deserves attention, and left alone for years it can lead to skin breakdown and stubborn wounds. But on its own, it is rarely the thing that lands you in a bed at 4 in the morning fighting for breath. The second cause is the one I need you to respect the most, and it is the reason I told you Margaret's story. It is the heart. Specifically, a condition where the heart, the central pump, can no longer move blood forward with enough force to keep up with the volume returning to it. When the left side of the heart falls behind, fluid backs up into the lungs. When the right side falls behind, fluid backs up into the body, settling into the lowest place. In someone who is up and walking during the day, that is the ankles. But here is the part that made Margaret's story so dangerous, and I want you to hold on to it. When such a person lies flat to sleep, the ankles are no longer the lowest point. The chest is. And all that fluid that sat politely in the legs all day begins, slowly, over hours, to redistribute toward the lungs. That is why a certain kind of person wakes at 3 or 4 in the morning suddenly short of breath, needing to sit up, needing to prop themselves on pillows just to breathe. In my years on the wards, I saw this pattern so many times that I could almost predict the hour. It even has a name. We call it paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, a fancy phrase for a terrifying thing. Drowning slowly in your own fluid while lying in your own bed. So here is a signal I want you to test tonight, and it costs you nothing. How many pillows do you need to sleep comfortably now, compared with a year ago? If you have quietly gone from 1 pillow to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to sleeping half-sitting in a chair, not because you like it, but because lying flat makes you feel breathless, then your legs and your lungs are telling the same story. And it is a story about the pump. Do not wait for the 4 a.m. version to ask it. How many pillows do you need to sleep comfortably now, compared with a year ago? If you have quietly gone from 1 pillow to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to sleeping half-sitting in a chair, not because you like it, but because lying flat makes you feel breathless, then your legs and your lungs are telling the same story, and it is a story about the pump. That single question has caught more early heart trouble in my practice than any expensive machine. Do not wait for the 4 a.m. version to ask it. And now we come to the third cause, and this is the one almost nobody warns you about properly, the one I call the quiet trap, because the swelling here is not a sign that something is broken. It is a side effect of something you are doing to protect yourself. I am talking about medication, specifically a family of blood pressure pills. There is a widely prescribed blood pressure medication called Amlodipine. You may know it by that name, or your bottle may say something else, but Amlodipine is the common one. It belongs to a group called calcium channel blockers. And it is, let me be absolutely clear, a good medication. It genuinely lowers blood pressure. It genuinely protects your brain and your kidneys from the slow damage of high pressure over years. And for a great many people over 60, it is doing important, quiet, protective work every single day. I would never tell you to stop taking a pill your physician prescribed based on a video. Please hear that. But here is the nuance that so few people are told when that pill is handed to them. Amlodipine works by relaxing and widening the small arteries. That is how it lowers your pressure. It opens the pipes. But when it opens those small arteries in your legs, it changes the balance of pressure at the level of your tiniest vessels, the capillaries, and it nudges more fluid out into the surrounding tissue. The result is swelling in the ankles. And here is the part that fools people, the part that sends them to the emergency room convinced their heart is failing when it is not. This kind of swelling does not respond well to putting your feet up, and it does not respond at all to water pills. In my practice, I would say 4 or 5 out of every 10 patients on higher doses of this medication develop some degree of ankle swelling. It is that common, and too often someone sees the swelling, panics, assumes it is the heart, gets started on a diuretic to flush out fluid that was never really overloaded. And now they are dehydrated on top of everything else, dizzy, at risk of a fall. One misread signal, a whole cascade of trouble. So how do you tell the difference? How do you know if your swelling is the dangerous heart kind or the annoying but benign medication kind? A few honest clues, though I will say plainly that only your own physician, examining you, can confirm it. Medication swelling from this drug tends to be soft. It tends to affect both ankles fairly evenly. It usually is not accompanied by breathlessness, and it usually appears within weeks of starting the drug or raising the dose. Heart swelling far more often comes hand in hand with that pillow story. The breathlessness lying flat, the waking at night, the fatigue that has crept in over months. The swelling from a heart is a passenger. It rarely travels alone. The swelling from Amlodipine often does travel alone, just the puffy ankles, and otherwise you feel like yourself. It is just 8 minutes against a lifetime of physiology. Now, there is a whole other branch of blood pressure medicine that behaves very differently, and understanding it will protect you from a second, sneakier trap. A trap involving a pill that most people believe is completely safe for the legs. And in one specific way it is, but in another way that almost nobody discusses, it can quietly steer your entire body's fluid balance off a cliff over the course of a single hot week. The pill I am talking about now belongs to a different family entirely. The ones your bottle might name as lisinopril or enalapril, or as losartan or valsartan if it is the cousin group. These are the medications your doctor probably calls the ones that protect the kidneys. And here is the good news first. Unlike amlodipine, these medications very rarely cause ankle swelling on their own. In fact, physicians sometimes switch a patient from the calcium channel blocker to one of these precisely to escape the puffy ankles. So on the surface, this looks like the safer choice for your legs. And in that narrow sense, it is. But listen to me, because here is the trap, and it has nothing to do with your ankles and everything to do with an organ you cannot see or feel. Lisinopril and losartan work by relaxing your blood vessels through a hormone system that also happens to control how your kidneys handle salt, water, and one particular mineral, it's potassium. Under normal circumstances, this is fine. Better than fine. But now picture a hot summer week. You are 76 years old. You are sweating more than you realize. You have gone off your appetite the way older people often do in the heat. You are drinking a little less, eating a little less. Your body's fluid volume is quietly dropping. And in a younger person, the kidneys would compensate instantly. But you are on a medication that has deliberately turned down the very hormone system the kidneys use to hold onto water in a crisis. Back. Now the kidneys cannot protect themselves the way they were designed to. Your blood pressure, already lowered by the pill, can drop too far. You stand up from a chair, and the room swims. And in the background, silently, that potassium I mentioned can begin to climb, because these medications cause the body to hold on to it. And potassium that climbs too high does something that no swollen ankle ever could. It interferes with the electrical rhythm of the heart itself. So here is the quiet lesson, the thing they rarely have time to say in the 8-minute visit. The swelling in your legs and the invisible chemistry of your kidneys are two ends of the same rope. Watch one, respect the other. And on a hot week when you are older and on these medications, the danger is not always more fluid pooling in your ankles. Sometimes it is the opposite, too little fluid overall, and a body that has lost its ability to correct the balance. And there is a third character in this pharmacy story, one many of you may be taking without connecting it to your legs at all. It is a rhythm and pressure medication. Your bottle may say metoprolol, or bisoprolol, or atenolol, a group we call beta blockers. These slow the heart down and ease its workload, and for the right person, they are life-saving. But here is the nuance nobody circles for you. By slowing the heart, in certain people whose pump is already weak, a beta blocker can very slightly reduce how forcefully blood is pushed forward, and that can allow a little more fluid to settle in the legs. It is usually mild. It is usually worth it because of what the medication is preventing. That is not anyone's villainy. It is just 8 minutes against a lifetime of physiology. Now I want to take you into the organ that quietly directs this entire orchestra, the kidneys, because if you understand this, you understand almost everything about why your legs swell. Your kidneys are the master valve on the whole fluid system. Every single day they decide quietly how much salt and water to keep and how much to send away. And the currency they trade in is salt. Where salt goes, water follows. That is one of the most reliable laws in the entire body. Hold on to salt, and you hold on to water. Let salt go, and water leaves with it. As the kidneys age, they get slower and clumsier at dumping excess salt. So when you eat a salty meal, and I mean the hidden salt, the salt in bread, in canned soup, in cured meats, your aging kidneys hold on to more of it for longer than they did when you were 40. Every gram of salt they hold pulls water into your bloodstream and out into your tissues. This is why, and I have seen this exact sequence more times than I can count, a person can have a swollen ankle day not because their heart got worse overnight, but because yesterday's dinner was a sodium bomb they never tasted. In my practice, when a patient's ankles suddenly puffed up over a weekend, the very first thing I asked was not about their heart. It was, "What did you eat on Friday and Saturday?" And this is the moment I have to correct a piece of well-meaning advice that gets passed around and that quietly harms people. You have heard that you must drink lots of water, force it down, 8 glasses, 10 glasses, more. For a fit 40-year-old, fine. For a person over 70 whose heart is already working hard and whose kidneys are already slow to release fluid, drinking large volumes of water on top of a body that is already retaining fluid is not helping. It is adding more water to a system that is already struggling to move what it has. Please hear the nuance carefully because I do not want you to swing to the other extreme and get dehydrated, which as I just explained is its own danger. The point is not to drink less out of fear. The point is that thirst, real thirst, sipped steadily through the day, is a far better guide for an older body than a rigid number of glasses forced down by a rule. Your body was measuring fluid long before anyone invented that rule. And now I have to tell you, the thing I have been circling since the very beginning. Because everything I have said so far, the veins, the heart, the pills, the kidneys, the salt, all of it is prelude to one single physical change that happens in the legs in the hours before a serious event. A change so specific that you can feel it with your own hand, and that I genuinely wish every person over 70 knew how to check. It is not the swelling itself. It is something about the swelling, something about its texture, its color, and one other thing about the skin that most people never think to look for. And when I explain it, you will understand why the very first thing I ever taught a new patient was how to read their own 2 feet. It is not the amount of swelling that matters most in that final window. It is 3 things about the swelling: its speed, its texture, and its color, and I want you to learn all 3 tonight. The first is speed. Chronic swelling, the venous kind, the medication kind, comes on slowly over weeks and months, a little worse each evening. But swelling that appears suddenly, swelling that was not there in the morning and by afternoon has ballooned your ankle, especially if it comes with breathlessness or a strange fatigue that feels like a weight on your chest. That speed is the alarm. Fluid moving that fast is not tired veins. Fast is the pump. When I taught new patients, I told them, it is not the size of the swelling that frightens me, it is how quickly it arrived. The second is texture, and here is where your own finger becomes the finest instrument in the room. Press, hold 5 seconds, release. In ordinary swelling, the pit forms and then fills back in fairly promptly. But when the pit is deep and stays, when you can still see the dent 10, 20, 30 seconds later, sitting there like a footprint in wet sand that will not smooth itself out, that depth and that slowness tell you the tissue is heavily waterlogged, that the body has been holding this fluid for a long time and is far behind on clearing it. deep, slow pitting is the body telling you it has been quietly overwhelmed for longer than you realized. And the third, the one almost nobody looks for, is the skin itself. And here I need you to listen with full attention, because this is where swelling stops being a nuisance and becomes an emergency. Look at the color and feel the temperature. If one leg, not both, becomes swollen and that leg is also warm to the touch, red or darker than the other, and tender or painful in the calf, that is a completely different animal from everything I have described tonight. That is the pattern of a clot in the deep veins of the leg, and the reason I am naming it plainly is this. A clot in the leg can break loose and travel to the lungs, and that is a genuine emergency. So here is the rule I gave every patient, and I give it to you now. Swelling in both legs, slow, soft, no pain. That is a conversation to have with your doctor at your next visit. Sudden swelling in one leg, warm, red, painful. That is not a next visit problem. That is a same-day problem. Do not sleep on that one. That distinction alone, learned in 90 seconds, is worth more than I can tell you. And because someone connected the swelling in her ankles to the pillows behind her back, her heart was looked at properly, gently supported, long before it reached the emergency in the dark. She had years after that. Good years, because two small signals were finally read as one. But there was one thing that saved her, and it was not a machine and it was not a specialist. It was a single question, asked almost by accident by a doctor who had learned to listen. He asked her how she was sleeping, and she said, casually, as if it were nothing, that lately she had taken to sleeping in her armchair because when she lay flat in bed, she felt as if she could not quite get a full breath. She had not even thought to mention it. To her, it was a separate thing, an unrelated quirk. So let me answer the 3 questions I promised you, cleanly, so you carry them out of here. Why does swelling in both legs mean something different from one leg? Because both legs, even and symmetric, points upstream to the whole system, the heart, the kidneys, while sudden swelling in one warm, painful leg points to a clot and a same-day emergency. Why can a blood pressure pill balloon your ankles while raising your legs does nothing? Because Amlodipine and its family open the small arteries and push fluid into the tissue directly. It is a plumbing change, not a fluid overload, which is exactly why it fools people and why you must never guess, but ask. And what does the body do in that final window? It changes the speed, the depth, and the color of the swelling, and it pairs it with the breath, the pillows, the fatigue. The legs never speak alone. They speak with the lungs, and if you learn to hear both voices as one conversation, you gain something priceless: time. So tonight, before you sleep, do 3 things for me. Press 1 finger to each ankle and hold for 5. Ask yourself honestly how many pillows you truly need to breathe, and look at your 2 legs side by side and ask whether they match. That is not fear. That is the opposite of fear. Fear is not knowing. What you have now is knowing. I am Dr. J, and I have spent 30 years learning that the body is not trying to trick you, it is trying to tell you in the only language it has. Your legs have been talking this whole time. Now you know how to listen. If this helped you, or if it made you think of someone you love, share it with them, subscribe, and stay with me. Because your future self, the one still walking, still standing, still climbing those stairs, is counting on the choices you make tonight. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.